Well, hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world. Great to see so many people here and also here in the room as well. We've got people online as well. And I just want to welcome you and to say thank you for sharing some of your time with me and the family here today to celebrate Gill. This is a very hard discussion to have, but it's an important one. And I just wanted to give you my perspective. Then we're going to hear from a few other people. We're going to play a few clips and just share some thoughts, but also focus on the future, because this is not the end of something only, but it's also the beginning of something, and I want to talk about that a bit later. So I met Gill in 1994 at the Royal Festival Hall. That night they were playing Elgar, and I treated her to my knowledge of classical music, and we went through the proms that summer. We got on really well straight away, and it was an amazing experience, and I felt there was something very special between us. We've both felt that early on. And then in Cornwall, a few months later, we were just touring around a bit, and she said, I'll make a phone call to Australia. I might be getting a job there, which threw me a bit. And blow me, I ended up 6 months later in Australia because she'd moved there. And a little after that, I married her in 1995. We went to New Zealand for the first time in 1994. And the rest is history. So unfortunately, a lot of the videos that you saw was my videos, because I at least make videos. Some other people, please note, it's worth taking videos. But, you know, since then, it's been an amazing ride. We've done some amazing things. You saw from all of those different views and everything. But coming forward now, Gill very much wanted to die at home. And I want just to say thank you to Dr. Zaney, Dr. Bartlett, the nurses, Gill and Sue, and others as well, plus the personal carers, Leonie, Jenny, Anna, and Karen. Couldn't have done it without them. Also to Steve and Lee and Tracy, all the people who helped us just to do the things. And finally to Joss, Gill's twin sister. And Joss came across from New Zealand. Don't know how she managed it, but she did. And she's now still here, stuck here probably, but she actually cared for Gill to the end and allowed Gill to do what Gill wanted to do, which was to die at home with the dogs. And so what I would like to now do is to invite Joss to come and share her thoughts with us. Joss.
So hello everyone, I'm Jocelyn, and Gill's identical twin sister. Gill and I were born nearly 62 years ago. We weren't expected. I was the placenta. Surprise, surprise. My brother Stephen was a year old, and my sister Trudy came 6 years later. So our mum is got dementia, and she's in care in Dunedin and watching today. Hi mum. And our dad came here to this home and died in Wollongong Hospital in 2017, and he wanted that to be with family, and it was a very special family time together. As twins, we were very alike, and our mum dressed us in the same clothes, and people couldn't tell the difference for many, many years. Everything we did was very similar. We tap danced together, we went to gym together, we swam together, we learnt music together. We went to Sunday school, we went to Girls Brigade. And that continued really until high school. In Gill's sixth form year, she was learning Japanese and decided to go to Japan on a Rotary scholarship, and I stayed at high school. And she carried on then and did a degree, an accounting and Japanese degree, and I went down south. So we were separated for many years, but there were always lots of commonalities. She liked cakes more than I did, but we both liked cheesecake, and we both liked the burgundy colour. Openness, transparency and social justice are very much part of Gill and my psyche, and it became a really important topic for Gill in her legal work, in her publishing and in the books that she wrote on companies. I've thought about 4 C's that I think characterise Gill, and they are competitiveness, commitment, caring and courage. Our family values were one, to work hard and to give it your best, and a Christian faith and caring for others that had less were important, and hospitality, and Gill had all of those. She had a lifelong desire to learn and to study, and went away to Japan and on to Japanese banks in Sydney and financial planning, and then she got bored and did a PhD and went teaching and became a professor. She had an adventurous spirit. She did a deep sea diving course, a skydiving course. She climbed Kilimanjaro. She went touring all around the world. Some of my favourite memories as I look back with Gill were my husband and I and 2 young children went to England and lived with her for about 6 months in her house. And at the end we went to Spain and Portugal and Morocco for 2 weeks. And we had such a lot of fun touring together and just having fun at nights. Tramping together and walking in New Zealand and Australia. And our 60th birthday was a real highlight. She came to New Zealand and we had some nights out with friends, family night, and then on the day we walked the Kanuka Walk. It was a 5-hour walk back in the place where my father had taken us when we were children from a gold mining, and she was so pleased to make the walk and have lunch. And then we went off in our camper van. I've got a little camper van, a Toyota Hiace, and we did 3 camping trips together into different places. It was such fun, and I'm going to miss those fun times with Gill that we shared together. Gill gave everything that she did her best. She actually served after her degree. She served Tertiary Christian Fellowship for 18 months full-time and at university. And then in England I watched her be part of the Historical Society there and had good friends and neighbours there. She served on groups for teaching and legally, her legal groups. But she also had a lot of friends, and she talked to me a lot about you friends that are here today and some of you that are listening. And for her, they gave her the balance. The going to the theatre, the walking, the trips away was so important to her. And I thank you for supporting her in her illness, for doing all those extra things that you did for her, the fish and chips, the cakes together, all those wonderful times that you shared together. Thank you for that. And her bucket list was to go to the theatre in the last month, and we got there twice. So I'm pleased about that. And for family, I thank you too. She so appreciated. We had a family night where we all came together on Skype and we talked to Gill about what we loved about her, and she talked about her highlights of her life, and it was a very special time. And the family over the last month have been Skyping every day, and that's been really important. So thank you to all of the family and the grandchildren and the dogs that made her day on those phone calls. And thanks to Martin. She talked with such love of Martin, and I watched them on the bed for a TV interview last week, talk about their 26 years and working together, and it was very moving. Thank you, Martin. They were special years, and Gill was so grateful, and she wanted more, but she was grateful for those years you had together. You know, Gill had great courage. She always pushed herself to walk, to work, and everything she did as hard as she could. And even up until the end when she was unconscious, she was still trying to get out of bed, and she rallied again so that she could do more for herself, because that's what she wanted to do. And 2 memories of that courageousness were climbing Sublime in June and July, which was really important for her. And the other one was 3 weeks ago when Trudy was here, and she decided that in amongst this really quiet afternoon that she wanted to have a walk. She wasn't actually walking much then, so down the park we went, and I had the wheelchair and we had the frame. But no, and I held her hand and she said, no, I want to walk this myself. And then she said, and we're walking too slow. And I was a crack up. And Gill was annoyed that I was laughing. But that showed her courage. I'm so grateful for the very special times that I've had with Gill over the last 10 years, the holidays, the walks, the talks, and for the real privilege of being with her as she died, as we shared that journey together, as that was her plan in her own bed. As I've shared a bed with Gill over the last month, and we've often been awake at nights, she's sometimes wanted to talk and sometimes been restless. I've played lots of music, and I know many of my friends and others have prayed for her, and she's prayed with Paul and prayed with others. We've listened to the Lord as my shepherd, we've listened to heaven as my home, and my belief is that she's in a heavenly place now. And I want to just finish today with reading a couple of verses from John 14 that I think are where I think Gill is today. And they're Jesus comforting his disciples. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God and trust in him. Believe also in me. My Father's house are many dwellings. If it were not so, I would have told you, because I am going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back again and I will take you to myself, so that where I am you may be also. And where I'm going you know the way. Thomas said, Lord, we do not know where you're going, so how can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So I look forward to the time that I will be in the heavenly places with Gill and with Dad and share that time with her again. But yeah, I'm grateful for the nearly 62 years that we've had, and that I could be in the womb with her and that I could die alongside her in the bed and share that time with her.
Joss, thank you very much. And again, I just want to say thanks for all your caring. Must have been tough being a sister but also a nurse. At times Gill was a difficult patient, but you did wonders, so thank you very much for that. Now what I want to do next is I just want to play... Hi, the dogs are getting into it now because everyone's barking down the road. I want to play just a short clip. I actually had the opportunity to record about half an hour's deep conversation with Gill about a bunch of things, and I'm going to use a little bit of it now. So the first clip I'm going to play is Gill talking about her professional career and all sorts of interesting things. I think you'll be quite interested by it.
I began as an accountant, did a chartered accountancy course, and once I'd completed that I went to London and worked in a finance role, really more than an accountancy role, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I worked for a Japanese securities company, and then I worked for a Japanese investment bank. That was the heyday of the Japanese economic miracle, and so it was a very exciting time. That miracle came to an end, and my father had had several bouts of cancer and lived in New Zealand. I was offered a job back here in Australia and decided to take it, and that was a role as a fund manager, or as an analyst, to be more precise, here in Australia. I then decided that I needed to have a better understanding of the law in the finance area. So as a mature student, I did a law degree, and that eventually became a doctorate in law. So I have a degree in finance, a degree in accountancy, and a doctorate in law. That's my professional background.
Right. Now, what is your current health status and prognosis?
Unfortunately, my health prognosis is not great. I had, not long after I had completed my doctorate in law, I started coughing, and I got an X-ray done, and at that stage everything seemed to be okay. But unfortunately it wasn't okay, and eventually at the age of 58 I was diagnosed with mesothelioma, which is a form of cancer. Not many people know about it, but it's a form of cancer that's caused by exposure to asbestos. Mesothelioma has by far the worst prognosis of any form of cancer in terms of the 5-year average survival rate. It's only 6%, it's very low, and really it hasn't improved in the last 30 years.
And we'll pick up that a bit later, but you can see there Gill's passion and drive, and passion and drive was part of her. Another very important part was the friends that she had, and particularly of recent years. And Louise, I'd like you to come forward now and just share your thoughts with regards to Gill and the friendship that you shared, and the amazing things that you got up to, including quite a few walks. Come and take a seat.
Okay. Okay. Look, I thank you too for allowing me an opportunity just to, and it's only very brief, all right? Because I just wanted to say a few words to recognise Gill's life. A group of us, seniors, and I don't actually know how Gill managed to get into this group, but anyway, we won't go down there. But we met probably about 5 years ago at an exercise class, and it was called Fit and Fabulous, as you can tell. However, I would be honest in saying that Gill was probably the only one there that really was fit and fabulous. She outdid us all. I think in those days she was still running up Hill Street and up Sublime Point, no problem at all. But from that, a friendship circle developed around the area. And look, it was such fun to be with Gill. She would organise all the theatre groups, the art galleries, the shopping, Chris, all around Wollongong. Oh, yeah. Yes, she'd pick up every bargain there was to have.
Second-hand shops.
Yes. The bushwalks. Now, it was only a couple of years. It was only 2 years ago. We went all along the escarpment all day long. I don't know how she did it. The lunches and the fine dining. Oh, my heavens. You name it, we did it. And indeed, I don't think any of us in that group could ever now go past chips and chocolate cake without thinking of Gill, because it was, she had her particular taste. But as one of the groups said, and it was Jill Molan, said Gill always had that such optimism and generosity of spirit, and I think that echoes through in everything she did. One thing she always did was always remembered details of everyone's lives, and then always remembered to make inquiries about how you were going, what you were doing. And she was just such fun to be around. She just had such a ball of energy about it. I don't know how she did it. And what I always loved too was it was always engaging to get into these conversations, and really sometimes I'd have a different opinion, but then she'd always listen and give a very logical and detailed analysis of it all. It was really, really good. Her kindness is one thing I remember about her, and ability to reach out to others, even when she herself was so sick, I think was utterly remarkable. So our group will certainly remember Gill as one of the most remarkable women who achieved so much despite it all. So we are going to miss her terribly.
Louise, thank you so much. And well said. And cakes, absolutely. Chips, absolutely. Theatre, Jill just crammed so much in. I don't know how she managed to do so much, I'll be honest with you. Now, one of the friendships that Gill really valued was John and Sally. They live over in Perth. They visited us, we visited them, and we've got a message from John and Sally that I want to pay now. They go back a long way, and this is a really profound little piece from John and Sally.
Good afternoon, Martin and Joss, and all that are in attendance today for Gill's memorial. Sally and I would like to say a few words. The painting in the background is one that Gill was very fond of. Sally first met Gill around 1986 on a trip to Israel. So many fond memories of catching up over the years. Gill was living in Hampstead, London, and on Sally's days off, she would catch up with Gill. Gill was renovating her house at this time. I first met Gill and Martin in Cremorne when Sally and I visited, and again, more renovations were being made to their home. We had lots of walks around the bay in Cremorne, and we had a great time. Gill and Martin came to visit us in Perth in WA and brought their dog Thomas. We managed a trip down south to Pemberton, where Gill managed to climb the massive Gloucester tree, which Sally and I failed to do as it just seemed too high. We always enjoyed conversations over the phone. Gill was always a height of happiness, with her laugh that we won't ever forget. Gill was due to visit us at the farm in Denmark, but telephoned to say that she would not be coming as she had just been diagnosed with mesothelioma. This was a complete shock for us to hear. Gill did manage to visit again in Denmark in 2019. It was fantastic that she could come, and she never spoke of any pain. She was always so strong. It was extremely hard when Gill messaged to say that her life was coming to an end. At least we managed to speak a few more times on the phone. Gill, you are a good friend and will not be forgotten. You're an inspiration to everybody. Such courage, strength, no more so than in the last couple of years. I'm sure your work on asbestos awareness will help inform others, and let's hope changes will be made. Your friends, John and Sally.
And thanks to John, thanks to Sally. Gill went over to Perth to develop her academic career, and she pretty much knew nobody over there, but they were a great support for her over there. And I want to say to those two amazing people, thank you for supporting Gill through that Perth period, which actually was foundational in her academic career, which we'll get on to a little bit. But before I do that, I want to get Chris to come up now and just share a word. And one of the things I want to underscore is Sublime Point. Sublime Point, you will see, becomes a very important issue and question here as well. So Chris, welcome.
Thank you. And thanks for letting me speak. This is sort of going to be part prose, part poetry, sort of. And anyway, here goes. Dear, dear friend, I will miss you. You were, when I first met you, looking forward to a long life. Knowing you, a productive life. I first met you on a walk on the ridge, organised by a hiking group, Ramblers, more familiar name to the New Zealanders. I realised you joined groups like this, for the walk, yes, but for companionship, to meet new friends. We bonded over similar interests, and you were generous in introducing me to your circle of friends and to your family. You were restless and driven in many ways, to travel, to publish, to expose and redress many wrongs in the field of your expertise in corporate law. Oh, they've been so foolish, those that have rejected you. After your diagnosis, as you sought to make sense of the inevitable, to rationalise the irrational, what could have been preventable, but was drawn out due to the avarice of a few. Slowly, as you researched, wrote, your footnotes, which I read, blossomed onto the main page. Your reasoned voice taking flight to bring to account those who should have been responsible, who should have prevented and cared when they knew, and they did know. And as your health and life failed, you found the steel in your spine and rose. You will be remembered. Thanks.
Chris, thank you so much, and what wonderful words those are. And you've captured the spirit, and you've also mentioned the walking. Sublime Point became a very important focus for Gill. She regarded it as a challenge. Anybody who knows the area will know that it's a pretty steep climb from near Austin Mere up to the top of the escarpment. And you have to go up rope ladders and things towards the end. But there are 4 stages before you get to the rope ladder. And despite Gill's illness and despite her failing breathing, she drove herself again and again and again to go up the hill. And in fact, she did that quite frequently, quite close to the end. But in the last couple of months, she couldn't do it anymore. But what we did do was we took her to Sublime Point. And she had an afternoon tea at Sublime Point, which of course is cakes, as you'd expect. And here's a short video that I took of her at Sublime Point. And those cakes were very, very good. Now, of course, the Kiwi was strong in this one, and the New Zealand connection is very, very strong. And I'm pleased now to bring in some of those back in New Zealand. And the first will be Naomi, niece to Gill, Josh's daughter. And we're going to use Zoom for that, so I'm going to push the Zoom button and hopefully Naomi will appear. Let's see whether it happens.
Hi. So one of the prevailing themes that I really connected with in Gill's later life was her tireless dedication to studying the law and advocating for different laws or interpretations thereof, particularly those that would stem abuses of power and support people with less power. She focused, of course, on companies, her area of expertise and their impact, but also more lately specifically on the laws surrounding the preventable but deadly impact of asbestos, as we discussed. And this dedication to helping those with less power in our society will no doubt be one of her abiding legacies for a long time to come. Another wonderful aspect of Gill's character was her interest in so many different things, and also her willingness and ability to listen intently to someone's interest. And when we Zoomed together as a family recently, that was something that many of us mentioned, ranging from my Uncle Grant's theology PhD to my husband Stefan, social work with young people. I think also of Gill's wonderful love of travel, as has been mentioned, of amazing outdoor activities and pushing herself in those, and also immersing herself in other people's culture and language. And all born, I think, of a love of adventure and intellectual curiosity. I understood and connected with these parts of her, not only those, but also her love of potatoes. I remember popping in for a few days to stay with Gill in Sydney when I was 20 and on my way to finish my legal studies after a year working in Asia. She showed me the trick of microwaving potatoes for a quick and easy baked potato meal. This is something I've used many times since. And I think we ended up having potatoes of one sort or another every night that I was there for those days. I hear from Mum that she also enjoyed plenty of potatoes and ice cream and cakes, of course, over the last few months, of which I'm very pleased about that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Naomi. And I noticed there that Therese had dropped out, so in a second I'm going to rush downstairs and try and bring her back in. But before I rush out, so don't panic, I'm coming back. I just wanted to also invite Stephen, who is Gill's brother, older brother, to come in on Zoom and share his thoughts. And folks, while you're listening to Stephen, I'm going to try and get Therese to come back in. So Stephen, across to you.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks, Martin. I'd firstly like to just again say how sorry I am for you. Gill was far too young, and it's sad that the two of you can't enjoy many more years together. And as Martin has acknowledged, a thank you to you, Joss. Your dedication to supporting Gill and Martin, including locking yourself out of New Zealand as a result of COVID, has been outstanding. A couple of weeks ago, when she and I spoke, Gill shared that she wished that she hadn't worked quite so hard and had spent more time enjoying friends and family. And of course, that's a not uncommon refrain as we age, but in Gill's case, sadly, the remaining time has been unfairly cut short, so the sentiment is particularly relevant. And it's a reminder for all of us of what's important. Gill was a very clever, hardworking and successful woman and was rightfully proud of her career achievements. And I know that others will talk about this in more detail shortly. My childhood memories of Gill are family-oriented, wonderful holidays together in Cromwell and Central Otago, initially camping, and then in a simple holiday house, or a crib, as we call it, in the lower part of the South Island, that Dad built with his own hands. Swimming in the local pool, riding bikes together as the kids, day trips to picnic spots with friends and rallies. Another memory, Joss mentioned Sunday school, another memory is Sunday mornings taking the long walk together to Sunday school. And I do remember on one occasion getting into trouble for taking a shortcut through someone's private backyard. I can't recall whose decision that was, but I won't blame it on Gill. After Gill left New Zealand many years ago, we enjoyed Gill and Martin's hospitality and company on a number of occasions. The first time was in 1994, and our then young sons, they were under 10 and they're now in their mid-30s, thought that Gill's apartment on the edge of Sydney Harbour, right beside the bridge, looking over the harbour to the Opera House and to Circular Quay, was just so special, as indeed it was. And Martin's collection of Star Wars items on display was pretty cool too. But most importantly, we enjoyed the time together, checking out some of the highlights of Sydney with Gill in particular. Another memorable time, for reasons positive and not so positive, I guess, was when Dad died, as Joss has mentioned, in the early hours of Boxing Day in Australia 7 years ago on the Monday just past. Gill and Martin were wonderful hosts and provided great surroundings and support, which helped all of the family spend time together, crying, laughing and sharing memories. Seeing many of you sitting on the same balcony there today where we sat, you're there today and we're here today for Gill. It's a poignant reminder of that family time together. Gill, I hope you're now at peace.
Thank you, Stephen. That was great. And the good news is, Therese, I managed to hopefully bring you back in. We'll see whether Zoom lets us down or not in a second. The point I wanted to just move the conversation forward to was the academic success story that Gill is. You know, she went to academia late, but she was Professor Gill. She didn't really flaunt that particular label, but her academic prowess and the number of publications that she generated in a short period of time was second to none. And of course, in the last 3 years, she specifically focused in on asbestos. She wanted to know about asbestos, why it was killing her, who had allowed it to happen, and what can be done to stop it hitting other people. And that is a very important mantra going forward, because one of the things she realised was that academically speaking, this subject was not well explored. And so part of what she wanted to do was to create Asbestos Awareness Australia, a charity, and I'll come on to that. One of the directors is Therese, and Therese is a fellow academic and is very well connected with Gill academically speaking, but now passionately connected regarding asbestos too. So I'm going to see whether Therese is there on Zoom, and if she is, hopefully we can get a little bit of perspective from Therese. Therese, if you're there, come in.
I'm here, Martin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All good. So go ahead. You've got a better signal now.
Fantastic. That's great. Apologies for the technology. I'm actually at the beach on holidays and doing my best, but I'm honoured to have been invited to speak to you about Gill. I met Professor Gill North in February 2017 at a corporate law teachers conference, which we were hosting at Griffith University's Gold Coast campus. And I was on the organising committee for that conference, and Gill was on the executive of the Corporate Law Teachers Association. And as fate would have it, we ended up both presenting papers in the same session at that conference, both talking about small amount consumer credit actually at that time. And one thing led to another, and we ended up co-authoring 2 journal articles on financial regulation together. And it was really through that process that I was able to see firsthand Gill's very strong commitment to quality in her work and in her writing, and really her meticulous attention to detail, which made it such a pleasure to work with her. By that time also, Gill had been appointed to a research-only position at Deakin University Law School, and those positions are extremely hard to come by. And it really was a testament to Gill's high-quality research and the degree to which she was so prolific in the research that she was doing and the publications that she managed to produce. Her area of specialisation was corporate disclosure, company disclosure, and she published 2 scholarly books on that topic. But she also, during her career, and as Martin said, she came to academia late, but she certainly made up for it in a short space of time. She published dozens of very high-quality journal articles and book chapters. She wrote a number of parliamentary submissions. She wrote and presented many conference papers in that area of company disclosure and also financial regulation. Following her diagnosis, she continued her research, and as Martin said, she became very passionate and focused on looking at asbestos and the impact of asbestos, the lack of understanding of that impact, and she became, through her writing, a very strong advocate for essential law reform, really to prevent other people suffering the fate that was facing her, very sadly. And during that time, she was also appointed as an adjunct professor at both Deakin University Law School and also Griffith Law School. And that really is an indication of the ongoing high esteem with which she was held as an academic researcher right to the end. I think Gill has left behind a significant legacy in terms of academic publications, and I think those publications will all continue to have impact. And I think, as Jocelyn mentioned earlier, her commitment to social justice is clear through all of her work, in terms of not only the most recent work on asbestos, but also the work on financial regulation. And so that legacy will continue for many, many years to come. And I would just like to finish by saying what an honour it was for me to have gotten to work with and publish with Gill. Thank you.
Therese, thank you very much. And, the academic environment is quite complicated and difficult to navigate, but Gill was able to do that. And she certainly valued your friendship as well as academic support. And great that you're part of Asbestos Awareness Australia, the 3 directors now, because of course Gill was a director but no longer is Therese, myself and Jocelyn. So that's now established. And what we are trying to do now is to take the message forward. Gill laid all the foundational work, did all the research on asbestos awareness, and what we want to do now is to capitalise on that and seek significant reform, both political reform, legal reform, but very importantly to raise awareness in the community that in fact asbestos is a killer. And interestingly, thanks to Peter Vincent, for example, in the Daily Mail, and Duncan Hughes at the AFR, and Channel 9 and the ABC, all of which Gill got involved in the last month or so, we've had more than 1 million interactions with people who now understand that actually this is a really serious issue. So that's terrific. And what I want to do is just give you a little bit of a guide to the Asbestos Awareness site. We relaunched this site after Gill died, and this is just a short video about the site. Asbestos Awareness Australia Limited is a registered not-for-profit company limited by guarantee, and it's a registered charity and has endorsement from the Australian Taxation Office as a gift deductible recipient. The company was set up to enhance public awareness and knowledge of the dangers of asbestos threats, to promote measures and policies that prevent or minimise the harms from asbestos-related diseases. And to achieve those objectives, the company provides public access to widely sourced information on asbestos risks and impacts, including the associated medical, legal and political debates. And the point there is that it's a registered charity, and we actually have already had a number of donations from people. This is a really important cause, and every dollar that comes in goes immediately to drive the campaign harder and further. Well, we're nearly coming to the end of this celebration and memorial, but it's very important now to just sort of think about this in the round, and to do that we've asked Paul, who's Joss's husband in New Zealand, just to say a short prayer, and hopefully Paul is on Zoom. If I press Zoom, hopefully he will appear.
Hopefully I have appeared.
Yes, Paul, you have. Just speak up a bit. You're a bit quiet.
Rightio, that's fine. Oh, it's my privilege to be able to just offer a short prayer of thanksgiving for Gill's life. It was great within the recent weeks of Gill's life to be able to talk and share in some spiritual dimensions with Gill, and she reflected somewhat on her earlier years, particularly of faith and the work that she'd been engaged with the TSCF, Tertiary Students Christian Fellowship, and how she felt more recently a real sense of call, a God-given call to her work amongst asbestos awareness. So it'll be good if we can just give thanks to God for all that Gill meant to us. So let's just join together in prayer. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you now for Gill's life. We thank you for the family that she was born into, for her loving parents, Dennis and Marge, her siblings, Stephen, Jocelyn and Trudy, and for their family, life and relationships that helped shape who Gill was to become. We thank you for her education, her sharp mind and work ethic, and for the various experiences enjoyed, locations lived, and qualifications attained that provided her with so many opportunities for achievement and to make a difference in the corporate, financial, legal, educational, and academic professions. We thank you for her passion and determination within these various professions that saw her always stand up for the underdog and to take on the fight for the minorities, the weak and disadvantaged, as she sought always to hold all entities, be they governments, specifically corporations, but also even individuals, to a high level of accountability as intended by the law. We thank you for the difference that she made and will continue to make because of her work. Lord God, we thank you for Gill's many work colleagues and students, and for friends who were influenced by her and who will miss her greatly. We thank you too for her very special marriage to Martin, for the years that they enjoyed, and for their wider family, the cousins, the in-laws, the nephews and nieces, great-nephews and nieces, all of whom received such a warm welcome, hospitality and generosity of spirit whenever they stayed with Gill and Martin. We thank you for the fun and laughter enjoyed together. We think also of her love for her dogs and of the love that was in turn returned by them. We think most recently of Jasper and Winston, Meteor and Luna. Lord God, as we now come to say our final farewells to Gill, we do so knowing that we entrust her into the care of her loving Heavenly Father, whom she knew beginning from her earliest days at Dunedin Sunday School, continuing through her university years through TSCF, and as displayed most recently as she expressed her sense of call to work amongst those who need to hear about asbestos awareness. And Lord, we thank you so much that you have loved and continue to love Gill even more than any one of us could. And so we thank you for Gill's life, and we thank you also for her love for her, as we now safely commit and entrust her back into your care. And these things we pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Paul, thank you very much, and very profound words there, very appropriate words, and really appreciate that. Well, we're coming to the end of this time now. I just want to leave you with two thoughts. I said at the start, this is the end of something, but it's also the beginning of something. And what it is the beginning of is Asbestos Awareness Australia's campaign to get asbestos out of the system. People should not have to die like Gill died. It's completely unnatural. It's completely preventable if policy was changed. And Gill was passionate that her life would ultimately be a legacy that would actually help drive that change. And I'm going to play, as the last segment in this retrospective and celebration, Gill's final wish. And then we will just simply play the outro and we'll complete the show. I want Gill's words to be the last thing that you hear. But I want to thank you all for attending virtually, in the flesh, wherever you are around the world. We've had lots of people from lots of different countries involved. My family back in the UK, New Zealand, the US, and other places too. So I hope that you found this a compelling and important experience and a celebration of Gill, but also what Gill represents going forward.
without awareness, nothing is going to happen, nothing is going to change, and the status quo is just going to continue. My lasting legacy would be I want to do anything at all possible and to encourage others to do whatever they can that's possible to save other people's lives. My entire work for 3 years has been on an unpaid basis to try and just save one life. If we can save one life as a result of the work that we've been doing, then that makes it all worthwhile.
Gill, thank you for your work, thank you for your passion, and the messages that you've shared with us today are critical. We're going to make sure that they are widely disseminated.
Thank you.